Hey guys, just jumping in here. This is Daniela. So I hope everybody's having a wonderful evening, a wonderful night. Um, my name is Daniela. I'll be starting and we will be going over a few things. I know some of you may have missed last session, so this is going to be a really good capture. I recommend that you get you something to write with so that you can take notes because we're going to go into what I feel is one of the most gate kept. Oops. What is one of the most gate kept conversations to people of color? So, can you guys hear me? Can you let me know in the comments if you can hear me? Um, if you can see the screen. Alrighty. Just want to make sure everybody can hear. Okay, so my face is freezing. Okay, so as long as you can hear me, I'm cool. Uh if you guys are in the comments, let me know if you can hear and see everything. Please let me know if you can hear me cuz I know we had some issues last time. All right. I'm about to begin. I hope everybody's having a really good one. Go ahead and get you something to write with. So this session tonight is wait. Okay, so can y'all hear me? Yes, great. Thank you. Okay, so you guys see the screen. The secret weapon that professionals who are earning 500,000 as a base or higher. This is something I feel like a lot of people who do this type of content, executive career coaches, they do not cover this aspect, and so that's what I kind of want to get into today. So let's jump into it. Okay. If you are a high performer, I want you to get ready to make notes because this is where you need to primarily focus. And when I say focus, I mean this is what your brand should be tapping into. If you're telling me that you are outperforming your leadership or you're outside of the role that these people pay you for. Your high performers are people who tend to operate outside of their role. You're carrying more than one thing on you that's not necessarily for you to carry. And so this is where things get interesting because when you do this, you will hit something called a glass ceiling. And when you do that, it's hard to find a job because most people will not pay more than you're probably getting paid for that specific title that you're currently holding right now. Okay. So that's why I always like to tell people pay attention here. Okay. The first reason I want you to understand is why we are seeing a strategic shift. A lot of CEOs are no longer making the cut simply because organizations and board members, CEOs, the old school CEOs, they are mismanaging strategic shifting. We are moving to automation, digitizing. We're moving to finding the people who do the work instead of hiring all these organizations to come and tell us to do something that the people at the bottom have been telling us to do. So these CEOs who do business the old school way, the old faces of business, those CEOs are getting the boot in record numbers. I think we're up to 3,000 according to the market. So I always like to bring that up to professionals to kind of let you know what game is being played, right? Okay, I'm trying to put my little face. What this means is they are no longer seeking this traditional CEO. They're no longer seeking that older white male that's a really good face of a company. They are seeking strategic movers and shakers. Who are the people doing the work? Oops, I didn't mean to move that. Sorry, guys. Who are the people doing the work? That's what they want to know. Okay. And so that's what that means. This is why we're seeing executives get in the boot. And the next reason you're going to see a lot of executives get in the boot is because shareholder or investors are not happy. A lot of, oh, you said you can't see anything. Hmm. Let me look. Yeah, my screen is showing something. You guys see the screen? You're saying you don't see where I'm on, where you don't see the screen? Okay, so you should be able to see the screen. Can y'all see it now? Thank you, Gloria. I'm able to see your screen now. Okay, thanks. Okay, so mismanaging strategic shifts, that was the first one. The second one was shareholder or investor revolts. I'm sorry. Um, so that's the second one. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to make sure everybody can see because that made me nervous for a minute. Okay. A lot of board members are basically saying, do people trust us? How do we only have people who look a certain way in the C-suite, and we're targeting a different audience? And so a lot of the times when we see the older white males, we saw Elon Musk tie himself to politics, it really kills the business. And so this is another reason why CEOs are getting the boot. And another thing is leadership longevity. Long gone are the days where executive leaders are staying with the organization for 20, 30, 40 years. That's not the way they want to do business anymore. And so this is why you're seeing quite a few CEOs get the boot, and you're seeing executives move into a place where um, they are getting pushed out without what we would normally see, that big payout. Now organizations are saying they would rather hire the people who do the work. And so that's what this leads to. Scandals and culture. Another reason we see them leaving is because they are inundated with scandal. And so I'm going to jump right to what you want to know. So high performance alone does not create executive compensation. So a lot of us are taught to perform, be team players. But typically, when professionals are over that 250K mark, it's simply because they are doing something a lot better than you. And what that is they're taught to how to control how their performance is interpreted. And so I'm going to get into that because this is where a lot of professionals tend to get lost. I want you to pay very close attention to this. And if you're making notes, write this down. How an organization operates vertically. What that means is, do we have too many people in middle management? How can you assess those things? These are the things that executives are showcasing. So if you tell me, well, Daniela, our leadership was not really solid, so I had to step up to the plate on the vertical and help my boss's boss. That's something that you need to be talking about. What is your organization going through that you may not be discussing? Are you going through layoffs? And if your organization is going through layoffs, because of that, your role has grown. These are the things that executives who are earning 250,000 are communicating in their resume and in the interview. They're talking about where the organization sits in the market. Like, hey, I'm Daniela Green. I'm from Shell Oil. Shell Oil and Gas is currently at number one in the market for ESG solutions. This is where I come in. That's how leaders talk. Notice I'm not saying, hi, I'm a project manager. I have 20 years of experience in ESG. One pulls me up, the other one pulls me down. Also, can you tell me how leadership, the board, and key stakeholders need you? And if you really think about that and you tell me you create dashboards, you create some type of assessment that these people lean on, that needs to be communicated, right? So instead of telling me you're tracking KPIs, who are you tracking those KPIs for? These are the things that your brand is probably lacking, which is why you cannot get past that 200K mark. When professionals are at 500,000 or higher, they are consistently communicating this, not because they know everything, but they'll have private counsel, which is someone like me, an executive career strategist or coach. Okay, does that make sense, guys? And so you trying to swing it on your own, you trying to understand how to communicate that, it won't cut it. They are not expected to produce every answer alone. And so that goes into private counsel. A lot of the times, many of us are promoted in organizations because we keep playing all of these different roles. But who do you lean on? One of the reasons people hire someone like me is to help them to be able to understand all of these things. And when they have an executive career coach, when they have counsel or hire team members to help them elevate into that position, they perform well. So ask yourself this: if you were to move up 2 to 3 pay grades, what kind of team would you need to be able to understand all of this? Oh, I would need a business analyst. I would need a data scientist. These are things that you should be communicating when you're speaking to an organization for a role that's going to pay 400 to 500,000. Remember, they don't have a role for you to play. They're looking for you to come in and tell them how you're going to get them to their goal. And so you saying, hey, in order for me to be able to anticipate organizational pressure, I built a team for that. I rely heavily on my regulatory team. Here's what that type of talent would look like. These people come prepared knowing that the organization is trying to figure this out, and they know exactly what talent to hire before they go out and build their own teams. They're not promoting like, hey, I'm going to come in and do everything by myself. They're letting you know they can build top tier teams. Does that make sense? Okay. Every deliverable must connect to enterprise outcome. What do I mean by this? If you tell me you manage KPIs, you're a project manager, that's nice. But what is your work connected to? How does your work connect to key stakeholders? So if you tell me, well, I'm a part of the committee where we talk about ESG strategy, are you communicating that? How are you communicating to board oversight? And a lot of professionals will say, oh, well, I don't have nothing to do with the board. Incorrect. Anytime leadership comes to you for a deliverable that they normally don't ask you for, 9 times out of 10 is because the board asked them for it. How are you making executive decisions? I cannot tell you how many professionals will come to me and say, oh, well, my boss comes to me to try to see where we need to be for X, Y, and Z. Or my boss came to me to run something by me to see what I thought about where we stand in the market when it comes to this. Okay, are you communicating that anywhere in the brand? Another thing when it comes to organizational trust is people. Are you at some point in your interview or in your brand talking about your leadership skills with people, your people strategy? These are the things that is missing in the brand. And you don't have to hit all of these. My point is, if you don't know how to move beyond talking about roles and responsibilities, you don't know how to move beyond talking about task and experience and recapping the resume, in order to have a more expansive interview that will speak into a salary that's going to take you to 300, 400, 500,000, your work needs to be touching these points. Does that make sense? Is anybody a little bit lost? Some people never, I will talk to some, a lot of the times when people book on the calendar, I'll hear professionals say, yeah, they come to me for everything. Okay, but is that being communicated in the brand? No. Okay, so why not? And who's they? So you are basically making executive decisions for the VPs because they lean on you for consulting. That needs to come up in your brand. So it's these 6 areas that professionals who are out earning you, their interview, I'm not saying go plug all this into your resume. The interview is touching on how they relate to all 6 of these. Okay? Is that making sense to you guys? Okay, I'm going to keep going. So, your resume is probably documenting the work you do. Your narrative explains the value. So, I don't want you to get into interviews. If you say, oh, Danielle, I have an interview for this role. It pays $350 a year. It's a VP, got it. When you get in there, the narrative is going to explain the value of what you do, right? The resume is the work. So you don't get in the interview and recap the resume. You don't need to talk about the resume. You're already in the interview phase. When we say talk about the work, what are you doing across those 6 areas that we talked about? Okay. So now I'm going to dive a little bit deeper. Okay. When I develop resumes, CVs, or portfolios for professionals who are targeting roles that pay $500,000 a year, $600,000, I have to make sure that their resume, their brand covers these 3 areas. Market position. How do they help the organization compete, grow, stabilize, transform, or protect its position? This is a big one. I also need to cover people leadership. Okay. I'm not talking about you lead a team of 12 people. I'm saying, hey, I came into an organization after 4 rounds of layoffs to reestablish trust with the people who were left and rebuild that lean team strategy. That's my people leadership. Are y'all with me? That's telling someone, hey, so when I come into an organization, here's how I'm interacting with your people. Okay. When we talk about organizational shifts, if you have not updated your resume since 2020, the market has shifted. The market shifted again in 2023 and in 2025 when we saw that tech bubble burst, right? Where is the organization now? If you do not know where your organization is, that's probably why you're struggling to capture what you do. Okay. So if you tell me, yeah, my organization just went through a bunch of layoffs, why? Because if you tell me you went through layoffs and you come from a company called Paramount, you guys went through layoffs. Oh, you can see my little face. You guys went through layoffs because your leadership team is, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put my face there. Because your leadership team is changing the business model. It's no longer focused on TV. It's focused primarily on, I forgot what I was about to say. It's not focused on a TV business model, right? It's focused on a streaming business model. And so instead of you going over a list of everything you do, talking about that organizational shift would sound like, hey, I'm Daniela. My organization just moved from a television based model to a streaming business model. Here's where I came in to lead, counsel, and guide my group and my business department through this phase. That's going to make a more solid connection than anything else. Does anybody have a question on this part right here? Because this is where a lot of people miss the mark. I want you to really think about the fact that when you have interviews, do you have a tendency to tell people about these 3 areas? Most people do not. Most people just talk about roles, responsibilities, experience, and move on. And you don't know why you're not getting a call back. This is why, because your brand is not touching the 3 high points. Okay? Is everybody with me? And so, if you do not know what your organization went through, I want you to go look that up because it's going to help you make more sense of why your role shifted and grew to something else, right? If you don't know how to explain how you moved up the ladder unofficially, like, oh, I act like the director, but I don't have a title. Maybe if you start talking about due to those organizational shifts, your role transformed greatly, it would make a more solid connection to the market. Are y'all with me? Okay. I like to engage, guys. So let me know in the comments or I'll just keep moving on. Okay. So high achievers are often focused on, and when I say people like you, this is what I'm saying. You guys were focused on responsibilities, what you manage, what you track, task, skills and qualifications, resume language, detail oriented team player, very empty language, and job market activity. If your resume and your brand is focused on these, you will not find a job that pays over $250, and you for sure will not land a role that's in the $500,000 range. Okay. And so this is why I do not like videos that tell you how to do your resume with ChatGPT, because if you're still developing a resume like this, it's not going to take you out of the glass ceiling that you operate under. Does that make sense, guys? Okay. And so those worker bee words, the worker bee type resumes, that's what is currently dominating right now. And so the reason I say that is because if you tell me in your executive summary, you're a project manager with 20 years experience from the oil and gas industry, okay, the next person may have 25 years of experience. You're not creating a differentiation between yourself and your competitors, right? You're using some of the same large language models, ChatGPT. It also lies, and recruiters can tell when you guys are using that. If you're talking about tasks, you sound like a worker bee, okay? And so this is why I try to steer professionals away from that, and I want you to be more critical looking at the brand in its entirety, okay? Figuring out all of this stuff alone is really gonna create a gap in the market for you. So a lot of professionals will do this thing where they have the title, but they don't have the money, the support, or the authority. And so now you're burnt out and overworking yourself. And so that is why I like to teach classes like this, because moving up the ladder unofficially is not the move. It's just going to burn you out. So for the professionals in my program, or people who I coach and guide, and professionals in general who are earning at 500,000 as a base. Remember, the take home is way more than this. Another thing they are not doing is they're going into interviews to talk about identifying the real problem. They're able to demonstrate market and stakeholder awareness. They're able to clarify what must change. And they're able to explain how they would direct the work. Okay? So if you look at this, one explains like, hey, I'm a worker bee. And this one takes it to a whole different level where you say, hey, I'm coming in to drive this organization here. That's the difference, okay? So taking the lead of the conversation, understanding what problem prompted for them to hire for the role that you're interviewing for. All of these factors matter. Okay, I think we already went through that. Okay, and so just so you know, a lot of the times the people with the bigger salaries and titles are not smarter than you. They're just more strategic. And so they may have private counsel. They have narrative control that positions the value, and they have the confidence to sell it. And I want to say this before I close. A lot of professionals have the confidence to sell it because they know what to sell. Many of you may ramble or freeze up in an interview because you do not know what to sell. Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions? I hope this was really helpful to you guys. Any questions before I tap out? Okay, I assume nobody has any questions. Okay, I'm going to leave the replay up for about 10 to 15 minutes. If you have questions and you want to add them later, please let me know so that I can go ahead and come back in and answer them. Thank you so much for attending. I'll be live again probably the week after next or next week. God bless.